Well, hey, we are live and good evening. I'm your host, Noel Clubb, here on the Clubb Tracks TV show. And welcome to Spanglish Sports World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app from respective iOS and Android app stores, as the app is absolutely free. And while you download, please make sure to rate and leave a comment because you always want to hear from you folks. That's right, that's right. And Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, and Fire TV sticks. Roku and Roku sticks are also available on all smart TVs from 2016 forward, folks. All right, so good evening to all the viewers watching the show around the world. Welcome and thanks for joining us here on the show. All right, it's that time to introduce my co-anchor, my partner in crime, right here on the show. He's joining us from the East Village of New York. He's, of course, a powerful lead singer and guitarist of New York City classic rock band, The Handful. Please welcome the one and the very only Mark, cool dude, Duda, to the show.
Thank you,
Welcome,
brother.
Mark.
Good
How
to
you
see
doing, man?
you. Good. I'm
Oh,
fired up about this. This is actually my birthday show, right? My
right.
birthday's on Tuesday. It's my
Cool.
birthday week. And I got to invite the guest on who I'm very fond of and have yet to get to know, but I'm very fond of her music.
Right on. And thanks,
So,
Mark, for making a show happen today with Carol Hodge.
yeah,
Really,
right
really
on. Yeah,
cool,
it was a
man.
guest I really wanted to have on. And so it's always cool when that works out.
Right, it sure does. It's always cool. It works out that way. It was pretty fast too. I'd say it's pretty fast so as far as like making the show happen. So, well done, Mark. And yes, and of course we'll introduce Carol here. And thank you, Carol. In the meantime, so here she is. Without further ado, our special guest here on the show. So she is a former college teacher, and she's also a keyboardist and a piano pounding singer songwriter. She's an alternative artist out of the UK. Please welcome the very cool and the very awesome Carol Hodge to the show. Welcome,
Hello.
Carol. How you doing?
I'm all right. It's spring here now. Finally, in the
Oh, really? Eh?
UK, the last 2 days, it's become spring. So it's yeah, I'm very very happy at the moment. Yeah,
Yeah, let's rub it in on us, eh? Because over here in Canada, I'm sure in New York it's no different. It's still very wintry and very
What
cold.
yeah.
happened like a week ago is it was warmer for like 2 days and it fooled like the daffodils. They started
Mhm.
poking up
Yeah,
and then nope, snow again. So
you too, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. It's nice for a couple of days, and no, 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 you can't have that.
yeah,
That's too soon. That's too soon for you guys.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
That's
just
know.
keep
probably what's going to
going.
happen here. We've got the 2 days, so tomorrow we'll get more snow. There you
Yeah,
go.
that's
It's
it,
just a
right?
little
And
little
everything
gap.
that's Mhm.
Yeah, Mother Nature's just making sure it keeps it in check here, I guess. Eh? Just making sure we got the story straight here. So of course, moving on to our very special guest here. I was going to ask you, you're originally from Scotland, right? You're originally born in Scotland, and you moved on to Manchester,
Yeah,
UK.
so I was born in Scotland, and then I grew up in Cumbria, the Lake District in
Wow.
England, and then I lived in Manchester, and then various other places, and now I live in Huddersfield, which is sort of between Manchester and Leeds,
Oh, is
so
that
still
right?
in
Ah, okay.
Yorkshire, West Yorkshire, so still
Gotcha.
northern English. It's a big thing in England, whether you're northern or you're southern. So
Oh, is that
Right,
right?
right,
I
Yeah,
did
it
live
is
down
here
south for
too.
a little bit, but yeah, I'm definitely a northerner. So yeah.
right on, right on. Very good, very good. So you can go back to the very beginning for you. Like, who were your musical influences for you when you were growing up?
Well, definitely. I mean, my dad had really good taste in music, and I remember as a kid going and like stealing like records out of his collection and
Oh, you
playing them
too, eh?
in my room. So I did that quite a lot, and I got into like the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, the Kinks, the Motown Chartbusters compilations. Um, and then I remember the really formative albums were back to back on a tape. They'd been recorded off the vinyl onto a tape, and it was "Sheer Heart Attack" by Queen on one
Oh,
side, and
Nice.
a
gotcha.
night at the opera on the other side. And I
All
just
Yep.
right.
remember being about 8 years old and just playing that tape to death. Like as soon as one side finished, I'd just turn it back over again and play the other side, and just kept playing it, and I just absolutely loved it. So I would say, yeah, kind of a bit of everything, but that one tape by Queen was definitely the thing that made me
I
the
love that.
switch click. That
I
was
love
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that.
I want
yeah.
to do that. That's what I want to do. So
Yeah, I love that.
Especially in those days with Queen, that's a pretty special time with Queen. That late '70s point, really. Like you're referring to
yeah,
that.
Absolutely, and it was just that. I mean, obviously subconsciously, but this is like way before I started writing my own music. But it was just the idea of like you can do anything on an album. You could have,
Hmm. That's right.
Seaside Rendezvous nestling next to, like Bohemian Rhapsody. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have one style that you carry on for the whole album. You can just
Yeah.
Correct.
take people on a journey, and that's always kind of stuck with me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a great classic record too, the Night of the Opera, because it was earlier, like you're saying, it had so many different things going on that record, which is again it's very eye opening because it gives me different genres and styles and approaches. So yeah, it's a
Yeah,
great
definitely.
record, excellent
Yeah, yeah.
record. So how old were you first picked up? How old were you first picked up playing the piano?
I was about 8 years old, but at the same time, and I my brother brought home a really tiny like Casio keyboard from a car boot sale, what
Dig
you would
it.
call like a thrift sale or a
Garage
car boot
sale
sale,
or
I remember
something.
a
those.
garage sale. There we go, that kind of thing.
Garage sale.
And he sort of played on it for maybe a week, and he got bored of it. And I would go and sort of sneak out of his room, and I just loved playing it. And it had a cartridge that you put in, and it had little LED lights above each key, and you'd press play, and the notes would light up, so you'd know what notes to play the melody. So I started doing that, and then I decided it was more fun to just play and make my own things up.
Yeah, well,
And I think my parents obviously recognised I had some sort of aptitude for it, and so I saved up all my pocket money for a year, and I bought a full size keyboard, and I taught myself to play a bit, and I taught myself to read music. And then I think my parents were like, all right, so she's quite serious about this. So I was like, please, can I have piano lessons? Please, 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 please. Because there was a woman who lived on our street who taught piano. So they eventually relented. And that was it, really. I just kind of like, yeah, that was me every week for like the next 10 years. So, yeah.
Awesome.
very cool. And
Love
how
it.
old were you when you discovered your vocal talent, which you're also a great singer as well on top of that?
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't know. I kind of just always sung. I used to go to church with my mum every Sunday, and it was like always the best bit. You know, I'd be really bored throughout the sermons, and then when it was a hymn, I was like, yes. And if it was a hymn that I liked, I'd be like, really singing with loads of gusto. And yeah, I just always loved singing along with anything that I was listening to on the radio. I remember being really young and harmonizing with things, like just trying out, like, oh, I can do that there. Oh, that sounds really good, and it fits with it.
Yeah.
And I used to like persuade my friends to. I remember me and two of my friends when the film Mermaids came out. I don't know if you remember that, with
I do, yeah,
Cher
movie.
and
Yeah,
Christina
big movie
Ricci
at the
and
time.
Winona Ryder. And the Shoop
Very
Shoop song was on that. And so I was like, I convinced two of my friends to like be my backing singers, and like I insisted we did it in assembly at primary school. So
great.
we just like, I was just like, putting bands together at the age of 9.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. So your nickname, well, I guess more of a self-proclaimed nickname was being the two-finger piano player. So again, we're going to share with our audience, about your rare condition. As per
Yeah. So I describe myself as a seven-fingered piano pounding singer-songwriter, because like you gotta have a tagline, right, in the biz.
sure do in this
So
day and age.
I thought long and hard about what my USP was, and that's what I came up with. So basically, it's So I've got like two fingers on one hand, but I'm very fortunate because I've always had a lot of movement, and I was born like this, so I've never known anything different. So it's called cleft type symbrachydactyly, which means that basically you don't have as many fingers as other people.
Yeah.
So I find it quite funny sometimes when it's like, okay, right, so you've been born with 7 fingers. What do you want to do with your life? Play piano. It's like, are you sure
It's
you
a
don't want
ballsy
to be
move. Yeah.
a
No kidding.
writer or a runner
love
or
it.
something? Okay, you want to play piano, right? Yeah. So that kind of says a lot about my personality. I'm definitely a belligerent, if nothing else.
I love that. I love that. So I'm sure you got a lot of people, like a lot of teachers or piano teachers, like saying, "Oh, you can't do this. You can't do this." And in fact, you actually
Yeah.
did it. Like I love that.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
and it's and I think people I don't think people do it in a intentionally like sort of prohibitive way. I think people are just genuinely surprised. It's like,
Yes.
not that I compare myself to a Paralympian, but I guess it's the idea of, you know, watching like a Paralympic athlete and you're like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing that they can
Yeah.
do that. I mean, I don't think it's amazing what I can do, but I guess it's that idea of you have these expectations of what somebody's physical body is capable of.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like
So
the
it's always,
notion of like drastic overcompensation, like, you know,
Mhm.
skill beyond what somebody would ordinarily have if they had 12 fingers. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
So,
yeah,
yeah, you're a
yeah.
wonderful player. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I say, I think I'm fortunate because it's all I've ever known. I've not lost my fingers in an accident, which I think would have been a lot harder to kind of come to terms with and like adapt.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
with piano, you know, you can use the pedal as well to kind of
Yeah.
like, because that's what I do. I move around quite a lot. I move around quite quickly with this hand in the bass, and I use the pedal to kind of catch the notes, so it kind of sounds
Okay.
like fuller.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Nice.
that's just like one of the little tricks that I've
Love
just sort
that.
of
Yeah.
figured out. Yeah.
No, I love that because
Yeah.
it's, you know, like, kind of indirectly, but I always think of too of Tony Iommi, Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Love
Of his
Tony.
fingers there on the fret side, he lost, but that was an accident. He lost, and
Yeah,
again,
he
but
lost the
changes.
tips, didn't he, of a couple of his fingers? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
yeah.
So again, like with your playing and his playing, it does kind of change the sound and approach, which makes you again a little more unique. And I just love that. That's just so cool.
Yeah. I mean, definitely not prevented me from getting work, you know, because I do quite
Right
a lot of
on.
work in other people's bands. Like I do a lot of session work and like, you know, guests with a lot of people. So I kind of just think they're not just asking me because they feel sorry for me. They must actually
Right.
like
Yeah.
what I do. So I finally
You
got to
got
the
great
point where I'm
talent.
like, I must be all right at this for people to keep asking me to do things. So yeah.
And yes, you are. So how old were you first got rolling in playing in bands and so forth, playing live gigs? How old were you then?
I joined my first band when I was 15, so that's almost 25 years ago. And yeah, just we were like a proper what we call a garage band. We literally rehearsed it was started off our bassist's garage, and then it was our keyboard player at the time's garage. I was just a singer, and yeah, we just. I was looking at. I grew up in a really small town, but there was just loads of live music, and there was like a circuit of probably about 10 different venues that you could go and play at. So every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, you were at someone's gig or you were playing yourself. So we quite quickly, you know, we started off doing covers of other people's songs, but within about maybe a year, like half of our set was original. There was our own songs, and then we won like a competition to record our first like EP, and then from there it was just what we did. Like it's what I did as a teenager. Just went and
Yeah.
went to gigs like every single weekend, like for 5 years or something. So it was a good start, definitely.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. And then with your solo career started what 2018, I believe it was, when you started rolling with your solo career,
Yeah, that's when I released my first album. Yeah, 2018.
which
Yeah,
is Hold On to That Flame, in
yeah.
2018. So how did that get started with you going solo? What happened? What happened there as far as making that transition into becoming a solo artist?
Yeah, I mean, I'd always written songs, like since I was a teenager, and been in various bands, which were some of the time like I wrote all the songs. Sometimes it was I wrote some and then someone else wrote some. Sometimes it was collaborative. And then in 2011, I can't believe it's that long ago. I joined Steve Ignorant's bands. He's the founder of
Right,
the band
right.
Yeah.
Crass.
Yeah.
And so we did like a big like sort of world tour and everything. And then after that, I thought, I feel like that was a really kind of a really big thing to do. You know, I felt like, if I've managed to do that, then
Mhm.
maybe I can start doing my own stuff, and I don't need to be in someone else's band. You know, I don't need to have
Yeah,
a band.
Exactly.
I can just do it on my own with a piano and just try something totally different. So that was kind of where it started, and so I started writing and and then started. So I did like a solo project under a different name, and then didn't really take it that seriously for a while. And then about like sort of 2016, 2017, I started gigging a lot more solo under my own name, and then released the album in 2018, and just kind of have just kept going. Released 3 albums now, so
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly. Well, hey, I love that accent, and I love the new record. And without me wasting and taking up more time, I'm gonna pass over to Mark.
Why not? I thought you'd never ask. So yeah, what's really cool is I first found out about you because I'm a Crass fan and I follow what Steve Ignorant does. And I would see you sort of associated with his project as I followed on social media. Um, and then, discovered, right? Nobody discovers you, you've been here, but I mean, discovered your music sort of ancillary to that. And I absolutely love it. Have you been, it's so different from what Slice of Life does and what Steve Ingram's been. So how have you been generally received well by the fans that know you from that part of your career?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, I mean, a lot of the time, I don't have much of a strategy, and I don't really know what I'm doing. I just kind of, if somebody asks me to do something, I'll be like, yeah, that sounds like great fun. Yeah, I'll go and do that as a musician. And so I just thought, oh, well, I've built up this following from what I do with Steve. Maybe they'll like what I do as a solo artist. And then I just
Definitely,
remember
yeah.
having this moment when I was just like, anyone who's seen me with Steve is going to listen to my album and just be like, this has got nothing to do with anarcho punk. What's going on? But yeah, I've been quite pleasantly surprised that a lot of the people who know me from playing with Steve are the people who support me now as a solo artist, which is kind of opened my eyes really about taste and about how you shouldn't pigeonhole people, and you shouldn't say, oh, they're an old school punk fan and that's all they listen to. They wake up in the morning, they put Dead Kennedys on and that's it. They've never heard of anything else, and it's a bit naive really, because
most of us listen to lots of different stuff.
Exactly.
I think the cool thing about it though is that there's so many albums out there and artists out there, and I face this thing too, that you really believe in your work and you think it's great, but how do you get somebody to just push play? Otherwise they'll never hear it. How do you have them pick your music to listen to on a particular day? And it doesn't hurt that you have an introduction from somebody. I mean, I had people in my bands that were a lot better known than me, and that's sort of how I'm trying to do it too. But I think it's really cool, and I love this stuff. I'm a big rock, Southern rock, hard rock type guy, like Mr. Generic New York rock guy. But I thought the album had a great flow to it. My favorite song on there was 20 Miles Up. Now, I really loved the first one too. I think 20 Miles Up is second, right?
Yes, it is.
It's great. Yeah, it's a great tune. And it reminds me of, it's very like earthy, and it sounds like a little bit like it's from the Southern United States. Has like a countryish vibe to it, which is really cool. But you sing differently. So it's got a lot of influences going on. And I wanted to know kind of what was in your head when you wrote it, what inspired that musically and maybe lyrically too.
So that particular song, interestingly enough, it's Steve Ignorant's favourite song as well. And he keeps asking me, he's like, can we do a cover of that in Slice of Life? I'm like, no, it's not one of your songs.
He's trying to nick it. He's trying to.
Well, I know. I'd be totally honoured if he wanted to do it, but he's kind of doing that as a dodge so he doesn't have to write more tracks. That's really interesting that you can. You think it sounds Southern, like American Southern. That was just.
If you listen to old Skynyrd, like Skynyrd, that's from like 73 or 74.
Yeah, the first record too.
Plenty of. It's got that sort of earthy, greasy thing. It's a little bit thick, and it's it comes off as fairly visceral, but it's not an aggressive song.
Kind of swampy there too.
What were your influences in writing? Like, what do you think of? What do you think of that as just Carol Hodge? Like, whenever I write a song, I'm like, oh yeah, that's that Who kind of song I wrote. Like, do you think of that song in a particular way?
I mean, the guitar on that, I remember saying to Dave Draper, my producer, I said, can you make it, just think, what would the Edge from U2 do? And it was like, okay, put some Edge guitar on it. And we had like a running joke in the studio. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna give the Edge a ring. Right, okay. Edge guitar. Just gonna give Brian May a ring. Hang on. Like, so I'm just basically bringing in all my influences and just getting him to channel them all because he's amazing.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe what you want.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, but like there were some songs on the album. There was one. Is it the last one? No, it's not the last one. I've got my booklet here because I've got the penultimate song, "Along for the Ride," and that was. I was just like, it was like, what's this one? You know, what's the vibe? What's the ballpark? And I was like, think like sort of Killer Queen, just that sort of era Queen. Nice. And he was like, right, okay. So like everything from, you know, the guitar sound was like a Brian May like plug-in and I know what you mean. Everything. But that's like a lot of the fun of it, you know, because as a songwriter, I write vocals and piano.
Yeah.
And then as I've become a lot more adept at, I use Logic to record and to sort of create demos. As I've become more adept at that, I'll often now come up with like a bit of a bass line, an idea of what guitar would do, an idea of like the drum.
So you hear all the arrangements when you write?
Sometimes, yeah. Not with every single song, but more increasingly because I know how to do it, you know, in terms of basically building like a MIDI track now. And that's great for Dave, the producer, because it just gives him more of a starting point, and it then means that we can get that sort of, you know, it's already fleshed out, and then we can have more fun thinking, you know, more about. I mean, this last album, there's a lot of kind of like washes and like synth beds, and a lot of backing vocals. And just kind of thinking more about depth and atmosphere and having the time to do that. So,
it's not as linear when you do that either, right? You don't have everything in at once for the whole song, right? You're kind of building things. So I hear that. That's really killer. And then my next favorite song, I gotta say, I think is "Everything Here Is a Joke." I love the first one too. There were 4 or 5 I really liked. None of it's bad, incidentally. I would tell you if it was. It's all really good.
It's a great record.
Yeah. "Everything Here Is a Joke" has really interesting parts in it. You know, parts that I'm like, is that one of those songs where it started out as like 3 different hooks and you just put them together? Or was that the changes in it? Like, I really like them and they're unusual. It has like this vaudevillian thing in it. And it's very theatrical. So when you say Queen, like now I kind of get it because there's a lot of theatrics to what you do.
Yeah. Do you know that song is so weird? Because quite a few people have said that they really like that one and they pick it out. But for me, it really felt like just like an album track. And it was definitely one of those that it's been around for a few years, that song. And there's a couple on this last album, so the Savior Ship and that one, that have both been sort of floating around. My wife's favorite was
Savior Ship.
Was it?
Yeah.
But so that they sort of felt like they didn't really have a home, and then after you know the pandemic had kicked in, I was looking, you know, going through all my demos and trying to find, right, okay, what are the tracks going to be for the next album? And I remember I came across both of those and I was like, oh, they feel really different now and the meaning has shifted, and I just felt really connected with them.
Inspired to lay them down.
Yeah. So they just took on this whole new form. But that "Everything Here Is a Joke," it basically is like I was like, I've no idea. I was saying to Dave, the producer, like, I've no idea how to get back round into that verse. I just can't. Like, and it's, you know, going from the verse into the chorus, it just feels really weird. And he was like, let's just lean into it. Let's just make it a feature. So I was like, okay, let's do the verses like Duran Duran. And then let's go, like you say, vaudevillian and more.
I love it. Yeah.
In the choruses, and then let's just go. Let's do a little weird Steve Vai guitar thing to get out of the chorus, and then just go back around to the Duran Duran bit. So that's what
makes it so fun. It's so it's so fun. And it's great when you can speak like that to musicians, and we're all like that. So it's awesome. And it really is a great record. Now, when you put together this record, were you looking for, and I know you have a single out, but were you looking for singles? Were you looking for it to be more of an album, like the songs are like chapters in a book and you want people to sit down and listen to it all at once? Did you have any particular goal about like the song cycle and the order you put them in and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because, I've done 3 albums now since 2018. And each time, the first album was very much a collection of songs that I'd written over the previous 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So then the next one was songs I'd written over like 18 months. And then
Right.
this new one is like songs I'd written over about 9 months. So
Right.
it was kind of like the window of time was getting smaller because I was just writing more and getting, being more disciplined in my routine. And yeah, each time I've really struggled with the order. And so this next album that I'm working on now, I'm really trying to think of it holistically, to the point where I want to basically, my vision is that what I release on CD and vinyl is the whole story, is the whole album. And there's going to be extra things on there. So there might be an instrumental section at the end of a track to lead us into the next bit. There might be some spoken word so that it's more of an experience. And then what I release as singles or what I release to stream is more like what I've done so far is just the tracks, but without the journey. I'm definitely trying to think more about the journey on this next album and making it more of a, sit down, put your headphones on and come along for the ride sort of thing. Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way I do it, but that may be a function of like when I grew up and the way I like to experience music, that's terrific. And what about the vinyl? I mean, this album, I didn't get it till the end of 21, and it really was one of my favorite things I heard in that year. And people have been having a hard time getting vinyl. I know this because I'm trying to release an album soon. Like, I just wanted to ask you about that. Did you go through hell trying to get those copies?
Yeah. Yeah, I really did.
In a word,
it was really fascinating because so the previous album I did, Savage Purge, red vinyl. I ordered it in, I think it must have been like the January 2020, and I had the copies in my hand in April 2020, and there's no problems whatsoever.
Yeah,
looks
right
beautiful.
When the pandemic hit.
Sounds amazing. Yeah, and then I ordered the next album. In 2020, I get so mixed up. 2021, sorry. So last year. So everything was in by the end of March, and they were saying, it's probably going to be the end of June. It's going to be a little bit later. And they got delayed 9 times, and it was like December. And then the turquoise vinyl arrived like the end of November, start of December, and then the sunburst, the other colorway, didn't arrive till January. So I'd just given up hope by that point.
People don't realize how much we agonize over things like the order of the songs and where we're going to get vinyl,
And when you do it all yourself as well, I think it's a really useful thing to do, to be a completely independent entity, because I run my own record label. And like I do my own publishing and I do my own distribution and run my own shop, and so did the design and did the whole process of getting the DDP together for the album, for the CD, and then
that extra rewarding
the vinyl master. I mean, I just like, I like learning and I like to know what's going on. I mean, you could say I'm a control freak, basically, but I think it's important to understand, like I want to know how to create my own demos. I don't just want to rock up into a studio and just let someone else do it all. Like I kind of want to learn and I want to get better. So everything about it is, to do with that. I want to understand what goes on with the process of getting vinyl pressed, and now I understand like everything involved with the design, like and the labeling and the back and forth with the proofs and the test pressings and everything like that. So it's kind of like quite good, and it makes me more empathetic with other independent artists in particular, in knowing that that's what they go through as well. Not go through, it's not like it's suffering.
No, I get it.
But it's like it's part of a process, definitely.
Yeah. Excellent. That's really cool. And I imagine it's even more rewarding than just showing up at the studio, which is like what I do. But
oh no, not true, man.
I have people for that. No.
Yeah, it's his job. He can do that. I'll just sit here drinking tea. Yeah.
Oh well, I'm spoiled. Noel, back to you.
Right on, man. Right on. Yeah, I mean it's a great point because that's kind of the age we live in now, where artists have to do it all yourself, basically. So do you find it kind of distracts you from trying to write the next record? Because I mean, here you're on 3 records into your career, and you're doing it all, and of course, I'm sure you're spread out further and wider because you're trying to juggle more. Is it more challenging for you to write songs because of all the other distractions, but the necessary distractions of the industry, the business?
I mean, songwriting for a long time, I thought I had to be in exactly the right frame of mind, and I had to,
for sure.
Everything had to be in a really tidy room, and everything had to be perfect, and I had to carve out an entire day to sit and write. Whereas now I'm kind of like, okay, I just need to sit there for 5 minutes and just do a little meditation, just clear my brain, and then the tap will turn on. And even if I've got half an hour, I can just sit there and just write and record whatever I come up with, and then I can go and do something else. And I've realised that is what works best for me. I went on a writing retreat, as in I booked myself a cottage in the Scottish Highlands in October to go and write this new album.
Oh yeah.
And the intention was, I've got a whole week. I took all my recording gear with me. I took my piano with me, and I was like, right, I'm just going to sit and write all day, every day. And it's like after an hour, I was just like, oh God, I can't do this. I'm just so bored. Like I've hit the wall.
It's too much for me.
I saw that.
I've hit the wall.
Yeah,
so I went off and like did stuff during the day and came back, and I've realized that is my process. I'll have like a burst of like an hour is a good amount of time for me to just sit and write and keep recording, keep the red light on, and just whatever comes in my head, just write it. And through that process, I'll start honing things straight away. And within an hour, it'd be very rare that I haven't come up with something that is at least the foundations for a song. It might not be a song that I use for anything, but it's, I think that songwriting is a muscle, and I found that the more I keep working it, like the better I get at it, and it just gives you that confidence. If you know you've got enough of a structure, enough of a routine, you'll come up with something, and it takes the stress out of like, oh, what if divine inspiration doesn't strike? And it's just like, well, I've got a process. I'll just keep doing the process, and something will happen eventually because I just keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And it seems to work all right so far. So I'm just
obviously,
keep doing that.
Obviously. But is it for you? I'm sure it's a mix of like it could be a word, it could be a verse, or something kind of discover on the piano kind of inspires you to write that next song. I'm sure as a starting point for you as a next song.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always I've always got a note, well, either on my phone notepad or an actual notepad. I journal a lot. I write every morning. When I wake up, that's the first thing I do is I write. So it could be anything really. And yes, sometimes it's literally just closing my eyes and sitting there, and then something comes through. I'm finding recently it's more like music and like a like it's not really a coherent lyric that comes through, but the more I go over it, words sort of start forming. And then sometimes I'll be like, there's a phrase or there's something that I've written in my journal, or like a topic or something. It's like I want to write about that, and I'll use that as a starting point and see what kind of I can create around it. So yeah, I don't have any like specific
approaches, if you will.
I quite like experimented as well, because it keeps it fresh for me, just keep trying things from different angles. And
that's right. Yeah, getting back to your record, I mean, like Mark was saying, a lot of hooks in the songs. Like, a lot of hooks all over the place in the songs in this record. And I mean, being a listener, you're always trying to listen for a hook or two, and you have lots of them in your record, I gotta say, which is, again, shows your great ability of writing songs. Yeah, you're very, very talented. For me, the first track, "The Moment of 1,000 Years," was like like Mark had like 4 great tracks that I really loved. That's one of them, was track number
Mhm.
one. I was going to ask you, like, what was the inspiration behind that song, "The Moan of a Thousand Years"?
That one was definitely a 2020 song. Um, I started listening to a lot of talk radio.
Hmm.
When I was spending a lot more time in the kitchen when when the pandemic hit and I was at home. So I was one of those people. I don't know if you had this over in the US, but in the UK there was a real trend of everybody baking bread. So
Yeah, I
I
didn't.
Yeah,
became
It wasn't
kind of happened
bread,
here.
but I
Yeah,
was
that
making
happened here
pastries.
yeah.
too.
I gained like
So
20 pounds.
yes, I learned
That happens to a lot of
yeah.
people. Yeah.
I honed my bread making skills and spent a lot of time in the kitchen,
Nice.
like cooking and things. So like, I had the radio on in the kitchen, and it was just, yeah, just the things that people were complaining about. And there was this term that kept coming up that one of the presenters kept using, and it was whataboutery. So it was things, there was the whole thing of like, Black Lives Matter. It's like, oh, but what about white lives? And it was just that
Yeah,
sort of ridiculous notion of like,
the
here's an issue that
semantics
somebody's
of it.
raised. So
Yeah,
Right.
like,
Right.
so somebody has to come and say, oh, well, what about this? It's like, well, that's not the issue here, is it? They're just saying,
right.
what about something completely different? Like, well, what about cows? It's like, well, what about cows? We're not talking about cows. We're talking about, like, I don't know, like South Africa, whatever, like sort of bringing cows into it.
Yeah,
So yeah, just that whole thing of, I think British people, we have a tendency to really like complaining about things. So it was kind of about that, and it was kind of about holding my hands up and admitting that I was doing it as well to an extent, sort of falling into it, and then just the sort of zoom out thing in the chorus of like, just stop complaining and like get perspective, stop getting too caught up in the little things because
Yeah,
it's
the petty
fine,
things
you'll
of
be all
life.
right.
Yeah.
yeah. Just get out of your own head, right? The pandemic was bad like that for a lot of people. Like,
No kidding. Yeah. No
my
Yeah.
kidding.
mind's like, the bad neighborhood you don't want to go in by yourself.
Going
And
It's not
armed,
that
yeah,
bad.
I
yeah.
had way too much time on my hands, way too much. And now,
Mm,
now it's good to be busy again. Yeah.
Yeah, true
yeah.
enough. Keeps out of trouble for sure. No doubt there. We get back to the your album title, which I thought was quite an
Mm.
interesting title itself, "The Crippling Space Between." So, what was again the inspiration behind that title? Which I found the title very interesting, but can you explain a bit more about the title?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of ambiguity. So I wanted it to be something that was a bit tongue in cheek, something that was a bit poignant. And I'll show you the album cover, and
Yeah,
it'll
right
make some
on.
more sense with the image.
It's a great
So the
cover
image
too, by the way. It's a great
is
cover.
that's me
Yeah, the
with
design
like
is
a
fantastic.
fake
I love that
hand
cover.
and like revealing
Yeah.
my real weird hand. And then yeah, but obviously like the facial expression as well. It's like, that's just me. I'm very I don't know, very sarcastic and
Well, I love the cover. It's a great
self-deprecating.
cover.
So yeah, just that idea of like, where everybody was kind of crippled by the space that was between us at that time as well, because you couldn't
Yeah.
see
No,
people
well
or
put
meet up
though. It
with
was well put.
people. So yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather be with dogs, to be
Oh,
honest.
or cats. Yeah, yeah. Animals any day.
Humans,
I
I
hear
could take it or leave,
you. Yeah.
Well, for me, it's hang out with Mark. It's my thing. So only fortunately only for an
Is
hour.
he like your dog? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's just like
Relax.
my partner in crime. So it kind of
His
gives me a big lift
comedic
at the end of the
fodder.
Yeah.
week. Yeah, it gives my big lift at the end of the week for sure. Well, back with Mark before I get carried away here on the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So the tours you did with had you tour with Steve once or is it multiple times?
Well, we did. I first met him in 2011, and we did.
Oh wow.
We toured for a lot of that year, so we did the US and Canada. We were supposed to do Japan, but that was the year when there was the big tsunami. So
Well, like out of all the
got
places
cancelled.
you've been over all the
Mm.
years, like what was your favorite place to play and why?
Oh, I really liked playing. I'm going to say Melbourne in Australia, because I never thought I'd go to Australia. We did, because we toured Australia and New Zealand, and I was just like pinching myself. I was like, I'm going to New Zealand and Australia. Someone else is paying for it, and I'm going to be playing music there. It's just like, how has this happened?
Pinch yourself moment.
So,
Well, that's unbelievable. And that's right. And it opened the door to some of those kind of experiences for you as well. Have you written any tour songs? Any songs about being on the road?
Not really.
There's one in there somewhere. Not yet.
Yeah, I could tell you some stories. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I'm sure there's a few stories there.
Have you been to the U.S.?
Yeah. I toured. So we toured the US in 2011 doing the Crash songs, and then I've been over again in 2019. I think it's 2019. Yeah, I love New York. We played Santo's Party House when we were there.
Yeah, absolutely. I know what that is. Yeah.
And then we played somewhere in Brooklyn as well.
Probably the Knitting Factory or one of those joints like that.
It was some, I think it was in Greenpoint or something like that. I can't remember.
There's a lot of really good spots. Like I would expect you guys to play like Bowery Electric or one of those places down where CB's used to be, just because of the whole Crass thing. There's still kind of a scene down there like that. And part of it's overly commercialized, and part of it's real. Still.
Gotcha.
How about for you? Is there a scene you're a part of?
So this is the thing that I struggle with is trying to figure out where my solo music fits in, because I play with so many other people, but I don't think it's really like any of the other bands that I play with. So I mean, I tend to get quite a lot of gigs as me playing solo.
I can see you at a lot of different festivals where they combine. I mean, your music does consist of a lot of different things. I mean, it's definitely rock, but it's got a lot of facets to it. It has that theatrical thing that I love that makes sense with the whole Queen thing now that you say it.
Influence there.
And you have stuff that sounds bluesy to me. You know what I mean? Especially the way you sing. I wouldn't think looking at you that gigantic voice would come out of you. You have a big voice. Are you trained?
Not massively, no. I mean, I did go when I was like 22. One of the bands I was in, we got like a record deal, and the label were offering to pay for like vocal coaching, and so I went to like lessons for like 6 months. Then, definitely learned a lot there. But yeah, I mean, up until now, I've been working as a vocal coach as well. So I've been sort of teaching other people to sing. So I'm kind of like, I want to know what's happening. And
you know how to take care of your voice and stuff like that. You're not like me where you do like 4 shows in a row and can't speak.
Yeah, well, I still get overexcited. We did we've just started doing the Crash songs again. We've finally touring them again in the UK.
So fun.
And the first gig we did, it was being recorded live for a live album, which we found out on the day. So I'm glad that was a nice surprise. No pressure for the first ever gig. And there's a song called Shaved Women. And at the end, the line is, "In all your decadence, people die." And it's like really sort of shouted, and I just got so emotional during that my voice just kind of went, and you can hear it. Obviously it would go that one time when it's being recorded for an album.
Warts and all. There you go.
Yeah, but you can hear it going, "In all your decadence, people die." Like, you can hear my voice going. So sometimes, even though I sort of look after my voice pretty well most of the time, I sometimes still get a bit over emotional or a bit too excited and put too much into it. But really, I think it's talking at gigs that does it. It's chatting to people where there's a band on, and you're like, "What?" And you're talking really loud and really pushing your voice. Whereas, when you're on stage singing, you tend to the technique tends to kick in. But yeah, the talking at gigs, that's what does it. That's the tiring bit. It's all the chatting.
And the other thing that's weird about playing live these days, where like I'm probably the oldest guy here, but like now if you have a bad night, it's on the internet before you're off the stage.
Yeah,
there's no, and like people can't wait to rip on you. There's like this negative sort of, universal schadenfreude thing that I hate that takes place online. What do you think about the online element? I mean, do you like having that as a way to sort of shrink the world and get other fans? Do you like doing online shows? Is it a pain in the ass to be online? How is that part of the business for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've spent about 10 years building up a following on Facebook and Instagram. So I feel really fortunate. I feel quite glad that I had this, was savvy enough to start doing that, to start, friend requesting and
Yeah, you
following
have
people.
to. Yeah.
So that, I spent a long time doing that. And it's really nice to, really good. Yeah, really nice to connect with people that ordinarily I wouldn't, people from other countries, like, chatting to you guys like this. It's only possible because of technology, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm very much from a, my mentality is still stuck in the 90s of like, recording albums and then touring them, and that's what you do.
Yes.
You just play, you just keep playing live, and that's where you sell stuff, and that's how you get, reviews, and you get a reputation. And then you move on to the next album, you do exactly the same thing. So I'm still kind of trying to get to grips with it all. I mean, I don't, like, my music is everywhere, because I thought long and hard about, do I put it on like Spotify and Deezer and Apple Music? Do I want people to listen to it there, and YouTube? And I just thought, well, yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm at a level in my career where I can pick and choose. It's like, I might as well try and get it out to as many people as possible.
Right.
And I've since then realized that the mentality of a lot of people it's like, people get independent music, people get that you are a solo artist, that you're DIY, so people are more likely to put their hand in the pocket and spend 20 quid on an album, and buy the vinyl, because people want the vinyl instead of just streaming it, or they want the CD, or they want something signed, so I think the two things can coexist quite nicely, and I quite like the variety. I like doing everything. I like doing the old school, where I'm comfortable with the gigging and the touring and the recording, but also, yeah, like doing things online and exploring that, and just seeing where it goes.
And it's a great way to get an introduction, because although we don't make anything for people streaming, I think a lot of people do get that. Like, if you stream the music and you like what you hear, go out and buy an album, buy a shirt. You know what I
buy
mean?
a t-shirt. Yeah.
You don't really make any money from the other stuff. You got to buy hard goods, to do that. But yeah, that's really cool. And hey, listen, I wouldn't have known who you were if it wasn't for the internet. So that's cool.
So
I'd probably still be down at the mall listening to Metallica causing trouble.
Well, I'm glad I saved you from that.
You saved Mark for us. Thank you.
I don't know if I'm worth saving, but
well, I think you are.
Thank you, my friend. Back to you, brother.
Certainly. I was going to ask you, do you have a set band behind you, and you do your studio work and your live performances? Is a set band established there with you?
Yeah, so it's kind of up until now, when I've recorded albums, it's always been like a two-hander, like me and Dave Draper, who's produced the albums. So because he plays guitar and bass and does drums, and I do the keyboards and the vocals. But now I do have a live band. So I have a bassist, a guitarist, and a drummer. But the guitarist she's like some kind of like massive, amazingly talented, geeky techno woman. so she kind of like, she programs, like, she has a guitar and a guitar synth, and she has like pedals that control my vocal effects and control the bass effects, and it's all going through her like magic box that she has behind her. So it's like, okay, it's great, but she's so tuned into all the little details of the album, and she gets a lot of enjoyment out of like, I wonder how we can create that sound live. How will we do it? Will it be like this guitar synth? Will I do it on guitar? Could the bass do something different? So it's kind of like, she really enjoys the challenge of like, how do we make it, transform it from the album, but make it live, because it's got to be different, because it's four people bringing their own energy and their own ideas to an extent to it. I don't want it to just be like pressing play on the album, but it's happening live. I just think that's a bit pointless.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got like a solid band that I play with. So that's it. Piper Dawes is the guitarist. Tom Fleming is the not Tom Fleming. I don't even know the names of the people in the band. Tom Swales is the drummer, and Matt Crusher is the bassist. So they've all been in bands for years and years. So it's I'm very fortunate to have them.
Yeah, excellent, excellent.
Get
So
by
we'll
with a little
be
help from my friends, right?
exactly
We all
well
do.
put.
Yeah.
Yeah, well put. That's always crucial in life and in music. So, yeah.
Amen.
Thank you, Beatles, for saying that, Beatles. Thank you, because that's always well put. We got to ask you too, like just quite quickly here, the music scene in the UK. How do you find it today? Like coming from the UK, is it like how's it going? Is it more progressive? You find like what's kind of the main direction you find what's going on musically in the UK?
It's really interesting. I think what's happening at the moment is it's like the 90s feel like they're coming around again.
Really,
So there's
like
kind of
early 90s?
yeah, early to midnight, like like basically kind of like
It's party.
like Riot Girl is definitely coming around again.
Mhm.
Grunge is definitely coming around again, and then things like there's a real thing in the UK at the moment of bands that are like a bit like The Fall, so kind of
Yeah.
like quite edgy, quite articulate, almost spoken vocals with hooks, but then chaos in there as well, and like live it's all about energy. So yeah, it's quite interesting at the moment. Yeah, there's a
Sounds
lot of
interesting. Yeah, I like that
very
combination.
familiar sounds and attitudes and energies coming back around again. So I feel like I'm old enough to be like, oh, that's like when I was a
I remember
teenager, and
that.
they're doing it now. Yeah.
That's really encouraging to hear that. Really encouraging because I mean, I love that early '90s sound and feel and what's going on then, and so it's good to hear that's kind of coming around again in the UK.
Yeah, the fashion as well. I went to a
Oh, the
gig
fashion too, eh?
on Friday, and it was at a place. Well, I went to another bar beforehand, and it was quite cool. It was in like a sort of studenty area, and I was looking around, and I was like, all these like students, these people in their late teens, early 20s, they all look like people looked in the early 90s. Like just like everyone was wearing like the clothes and the hair and everything. And I was like, am I
Really?
like having some sort of weird
You're time
episode
warp.
mentally, or have I gone back in time? Yeah, it was really strange. It was just that moment of realization. It was like, oh, and the fashion, the music's doing it, and so is the fashion. So
Yeah, because they always come together. I find the fashion music always
At
comes
some
together.
point, my hair is going to be in style again. Just wait.
you're a
Right on, Mike.
pioneer.
Hang
We'll
on to
catch
that.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Actually, give Mark one more question here before we run out of time.
Yeah. Do you plan on coming here to promote your record at all?
I'd love to. I mean, I've got no plans at the moment. There's no infrastructure in place to make that happen. I may be over there at some point this year or next year playing in other bands. But yeah, I'm kind of spending like the rest of this year really trying to get to grips with what I'm doing as a solo artist and where I want to take things, and just having more time and energy to actually just go for it as well, and just being like, right, okay, just ask, just keep sending it out to everybody possible, see what happens, and never say
That's
never.
great. You definitely have all my support. I absolutely love it.
Thank
and
you.
I love that you came on the show, and you're absolutely lovely. Thank you. It's been wonderful to meet you. I hope you come on again. I hope our paths cross again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Really nice to chat to you both.
Definitely. And where can people check out more on you on social media?
Yeah, so my handle on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram is Carol without an E, Carol X Hodge, so the letter X in the middle, Carol X Hodge. And I've got a website, carolhodge.co.uk, which is where my shop is, and everything you could want to know about me is on there. And I've got a YouTube as well, and like all the usual places you can stream music, you'll find my albums. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, Carol, what a great pleasure it was. I mean, well, I knew it would be coming into this interview, just kind of watching you earlier, but it was an excellent time with you. Hopefully get together, like Mark was saying, get you back on the show again real soon. So please keep in touch, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely to chat to you.
And I love the accent, by the way. I just love that accent. I could talk to you all night long, no
Better
problem at
than
all.
mine for sure.
And definitely better than mine too.
Oh
But hey
no.
guys, thanks for folks for watching. And I want to thank again Carol Hodge for joining me on the show here. And of course, Mark, do a cool dude Duda for making this one happen as well. Always a pleasure to have this guy on the show with me. Always lots of fun. But again, thanks, Carol Hodge, for coming on. And we'll talk to you again real soon. But thanks, folks, for watching the show. We'll see you again real soon. And of course, Zingo TV, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Thanks, folks. We'll see you again real soon. All the best. Cheers.